And I'm here with.
Brandon Whitmire.
How are you doing today, Brandon?
Not too bad.
So we just watched War on God in America. What was your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts were I can understand exactly where the video is coming from. I've seen it happening just through watching the news and reading the newspaper, reading things on the internet, and my own experiences. So I understand where they're coming from. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised to see this happening. I'm a little disappointed, but it doesn't shock or surprise me to see that this sort of thing is happening, that they're taking God away out of the monuments, that at a federal building, that they're getting history wrong.
Yeah, it was so clear that we had such a distinct history with God in America. It was so clear that America was set on godly principles and biblical standards. And what do you think helped it go so wayward?
Helped to send it wayward, helped to get us away from our godliness. Apathy. I think as Christians we became apathetic, realize, just kind of killing our own beliefs even at times, and letting the world seep in. You know, Jesus calls us to be in the world but not of the world, and we became too worldly, letting worldly thoughts like existentialism and postmodernism and such seep into our national identity, as it were, I guess. And over time, it just kind of permeated through the culture, and it's gotten to where we are today. And then hopefully, it doesn't end up like this, but eventually probably end up like some of the European nations where they are completely godless.
After seeing this video and seeing how far we've come from where we started as a nation, so founded on God's truth, do you think we can ever regain living off of those principles?
I don't know if we can ever regain where we were. We can try, but it's very difficult to do. I know in one of my church history classes that I've taken, it's bad grammar, in one of the history classes I've taken, they talked about when a country that was Christian leaves its Christian roots, it never goes back. And but as Christians, we can obviously read our Bible more, know our faith more, because that's part of the problem too. Is we don't know our faith. We don't know what we believe. Too many Christians today like to use cute catchphrases and different little things, but they don't know what it means. They don't know what's in the Bible and what's being taught. Whereas the world, they know what they believe. They know what it is behind what they believe, and they can give a defense, whereas we have a hard time giving a defense. So that would help us a lot more, is to read our Bible. I think it would help us more too if as Christians we were a little bit more outspoken. It is okay for Christians to be involved in politics, to be involved in social justice issues, to be heard. There's nothing in the Bible that says that you can't be involved with your government.
Cool. So do you think the media sways our government at all, or do you think it's just totally all political?
They definitely sway the government. He who controls the language controls the argument, and currently the media controls the language. And it tends to be a lot more liberal and unfortunately godless at times. They, for whatever reason, I guess it's they don't want to be held accountable. Because God brings a sense of accountability to the table, and they don't want to be accountable. My understanding is journalism is supposed to be unbiased. Well, there's definitely a clear bias. There's no presentation. Even Fox News, which is supposed to be the right wing, and they say they're fair and balanced. They're not. It's all one way or the other, and so the media definitely seems to control. We're in a media-driven world. You can read the internet, you can read the newspaper, watch the TV, you can pick up your cell phone and see instantly what somebody said. And the ones controlling the media are controlling the language, controlling what's being said, and so what they want printed or what they want to be said can be said.
So the whole thing with Osama just kind of blew up in the news, and it's all over the media and all that. Do you think it has anything to do with our government, all these wars, all these attacks? Do you think taking God out of our own government has put us in that kind of jeopardy?
Well, I do find it very interesting that this happens when it seems like President Obama's popularity is going downhill. I know that this will definitely boost him a little bit, and I was talking with a friend of mine today, saying I wonder how this will affect his re-election bid in 2012. But as far as being godless, or how did you phrase that question?
If taking God out of our government put us in jeopardy with the war.
I don't know, because Osama is Muslim, and Islam and Christianity don't mix very well. So I think either way, we would have been at war with them. I think they would have attacked us. I don't necessarily agree with us going in there to assassinate him. I think perhaps it would have been better for us to take him captive, put him on trial, and instead of condemning him outright, I think what we've done now as far as to assassinate him, send the SEALs team in, may have only opened a hornet's nest and opened us up to more attacks, to more terrorists, because Osama may not be the worst terrorist out there. The next one that comes after him could be worse. And, you know, the question is, will we be able to get him? I mean, the other thing you've got to take into account, too, is we, in a sense, violated Pakistan's sovereignty by sending our troops without their knowledge on their soil to do this. Right or wrong, what, you know, I'm not saying that this is anything against, you know, or a knock on the loss of lives that we had in 9/11, but at the same time, I think things should have been done a little differently with how we handled this whole situation. As a supposed Christian nation, I don't know if that was necessarily the way to handle it, but again, it just kind of shows you that we're not the Christian nation that we were intended to be.
Yeah, definitely. So you are in seminary studying to maybe be a chaplain for the military one of these days. How does that affect your perspective on the military and God and the way it relates with the government?
It's interesting. There are still freedoms that chaplains can have. There's all sorts of different chaplains. There's chaplains for every religion in the military, which is frustrating to a degree, but at the same time, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The big thing that they, you know, as I've been applying to be a chaplain, the big thing that they have said is, you know, you're not supposed to openly proselytize. Now, if someone comes to you, I can present the gospel to them. But because I'm working for the government, I like to think of myself, if I get in, I'll consider myself a government-paid missionary. If somebody comes to me, I can minister to them and present the gospel to them. There's nothing that keeps me from that, but I cannot go to someone and do that. God is still very much in our nation. The military still has chaplains for a reason. And I found it interesting, as I watched President Obama last night give his speech to the nation about the assassination of Osama, he mentioned God. He mentioned, you know, he said, God bless America, and that we are trusting God. Later on this afternoon, I was watching Fox News again, and they were doing a presentation of a Medal of Honor to 2 Korean war vets. Actually, they were deceased. And the chaplain was there and prayed. And one of the things that I've, you know, and friends that I've talked to, and I've told them, hey, I'm looking into going to the chaplain, say, oh, well, you can't pray certain things, and you can't do this, and you can't say the name of God. The chaplain on national TV said God. Said, you know, it's in the name of the Most High God, you know, in God we trust. He said all these things in a prayer. So you can still see that God is in our nation. We're not completely godless yet, but we are on that path.
That's good. It's cool that the military still acknowledges God to an extent. It's kind of odd how military people are put right on the front lines, and they're the ones that are probably giving God the most credit in our country.
There's a saying that says there's no atheists in foxholes.
I like it. I like it. Okay, well, thank you very much. This has been Caitlin Audis reporting for Comms 473.